Hey everyone and welcome to Storytime. My name is Jake and today we are going to be looking at the subreddit r/maliciouscompliance. So sit back, relax and enjoy some satisfying stories. Unlawfully forcing an employee to quit. So this happened a bit more than a year ago. We got a new line manager that was brought in as part of making a company more efficient. By this, it was secretly meant to find a way to boot out highly paid employees and replace them with much cheaper Indian or Eastern European counterparts. Mind you that I only pieced most of this together after leaving the company. This of course was never put publicly or in writing. It just seemed rather odd that a lot of employees started disappearing and within a week or so being replaced with said people. As a previous recruiter, I have never heard of a recruitment process taking a week or less. Anyway, this of course meant my time had come, and that I was next to be made to leave. This was done in a series of steps by firstly demoting me to a help desk position, previously a senior software engineer, and then subsequently given me warnings for not fulfilling my duties, when the first attempt did not work. To give a bit of context, our entire department would from time to time help out with third level help desk stuff, generally very complex technical issues that the support department couldn't handle themselves. Now, this in itself was not much of an issue, as we were 3 to 4 employees part-timing it, spending about 30 to 40% of our time on this. This is the exact thing that was dumped in my lap, as my sole responsibility. Now, some no-brainer math will tell you that is 90 to 160% work time for one individual, so essentially not humanly possible. These are also not made up numbers as we recorded time spent for performance reviews. This of course inevitably became a stress factor, and root of many hours of overtime, which is also unpaid at this company. I of course went to my new line manager with this issue and there not being enough time, to which I was told to just suck it up, and that there was no more work than I could handle, and that I in fact was also not doing the work thoroughly enough. To sum up the caseload, we had about 3 to 5 new cases per day that need analysis, threat assessment, possible troubleshooting, and if needed, handover to the appropriate team. This of course prompted me to ask what parts I was not doing good enough, which was apparently the troubleshooting part, which I explained I had to skimp on to keep pace, it being the most costly time-consuming part of the process. I then improved upon this, only to have a large backlog of cases build up and get reprimanded for this. This went back and forth for a month or two until I got a written notice of my dismissal if conditions did not improve, basically entailing me failing to meet any of my contractual workload, not just the previously discussed. Having previously tried being inebriated by severe stress and feeling it creep up on me, as well as this country having little to no discourse to use legal or union means to solve these kinds of things, I went to my doctor. This ended up in me actually getting an exemption from the stressful parts of my job, now also basically the only part of my job, and in my line manager now having to scramble to find a solution, as illness does not require notice, as she was surely expecting from me resigning. What this resulted in was bona fide hilarity, as she had to make a shift schedule for the rest of our team, now being one man short and trying to avoid herself getting the terrible duty. What she ended up doing though was making a daily rotating schedule for all of us, me included, even though she had written doctor's orders not to. This of course resulted in me having to refuse on my shift days, her having to take over for me, doing a bad job of it, and peeling off the next member on the schedule. The best part of this was that a few weeks later I was called into a meeting with the whole team where everyone implored me to return to my duties as it was disruptive to their work and created an unnaturally high workload. I stuck to my guns though and was later fired on the basis of the written warning, with 8 months severance. And the kicker is, they waited just long enough for my severance to get bumped up by 2 additional months. It was a great vacation though, and I could not be happier to be out of that place. Oh, and for anyone wondering, yes, I did have a lawyer and 2 union reps involved, and even present at some meetings. But in the communist and cold north, you work for the government does not work for you. I've got to give respect there for sticking it out until they had to pay them, because a lot of people would have just left, so that's big respect there. Pay rent on time? No problem. So this isn't as big as some of the ones I've read. It's a little petty, but it made me smile. Hope you enjoy. Back in 2014, I was renting a small studio apartment from a private renter. I made decent money as a shift supervisor for a cosmetic tattooing salon, and got into the habit of paying my landlord about 3 to 4 days early because of when my paydays fell. So even though in my rental contract it stated that rent is due by the 5 PM on the 1st, I generally paid on the last payday of the month, so that I didn't have to worry about it. So after about a year, I ended up switching banks. Because of this, they put a 24-hour hold on my first paycheck. My company was not big enough for a direct deposit. So I just shot a quick text to my landlord saying that I would be paying on time instead of early this month. Again, since the rental contract stated that rent was due by the 1st by 5 PM, I really didn't see this as being an issue. I was wrong. My landlord proceeded to send me a scathing text that basically said if I didn't pay on time, that I would be evicted immediately, and calling me all sorts of nasty things. Needless to say, I was ticked. I never said I would be late, had never been late, just wouldn't be dropping it off early. So from that day forward, I always paid at 4:55 PM. Yes, I would wait right outside his door in my car until a few minutes before 5 on the 1st. I also started looking for a new place to rent, and ended up upgrading to a small 1-bedroom about 6 months later. That's a perfect response. It sounded like the landlord got a bit too comfy with being paid early, and then when he wasn't paid early he seemed a bit upset, didn't he? Don't turn left? Okay. I work as a delivery driver, delivering large items to businesses and occasionally homes. The company uses big box trucks, kinda like a U-Haul, with 2 people per vehicle. Because of my age, I wasn't allowed to drive the trucks, so my partner, let's call him Dom, did all the driving. We had an agreement that he would drive, but I would do a little more lifting and other tasks in return. I finally turned 21, and my boss said I was cleared to start driving. This was great, and Dom and I agreed to split all the work 50-50, including driving. A problem started the minute I first got behind the wheel. It turns out that Dom is a huge backseat driver. It's scary enough driving a huge truck for the first time, let alone having a guy tell me how to drive. A few weeks pass and I'm tired of the backseat driving. Cue malicious compliance. We were sent to a location to pick a few items from a business. I'm unfamiliar with the location, but Dom lives in the area. I set the GPS and start driving. About 5 minutes in, the GPS tells me to turn. Dom tells me there is an easier way, so don't turn. I keep going straight. 10 minutes later, the GPS tells me to turn, but Dom gets mad this time. Why are you turning? Because that's what the GPS wants me to do. I know the way, don't turn until I say. Okay, whatever. So I don't turn. I look over a few minutes later and Dom is fast asleep in the passenger seat. I keep going straight like he wants me to do and wait for his instructions. It takes him a good hour to wake up and realize the huge problem. We are a good 60 miles from the pickup location. He wasn't happy at all, and we were a good 2 hours late. He asked me why I didn't turn, and I told him I was waiting for him to tell me when to. He should have just put music on really loudly and just be like, "Oh, sorry Dom, I can't hear you." But I guess Dom falling asleep works as well. You wanted the manager? Then deal with the higher price. When I worked retail, I encountered a customer, some rude and angry lady, who wanted the price on some shower curtains that she desperately needed. They were the only style and type remaining apparently, and she needed it. So instead of making her wait forever for a floor associate to help her, I decided to be nice and leave cash. It wasn't busy and there were other cashiers to get her the price faster. I walked to the back and noticed that there were no other shower curtains similar to the product she wanted. You're supposed to ask a manager, but it would take even longer. So I use my own general rule of thumb. Find a product that looks more expensive, one that looks less expensive, and the average price. Doing this, I priced the shower curtains to $19.99. Got back to the cash, and the customer did not like that. She was so livid that her face turned red and she said, Show me how you priced it. I don't believe you." Okay, so I drag her to the back and show her my pricing strategy. And she said it sounded BS and I should compare the shower curtain to the lowest priced shower curtain, $12.99. It was definitely not $12.99. We go back to cash and she demands a manager. She said she hated my attitude and that I was trying to scam money out of her. I kept telling her that whatever price the manager gives, I can't override it, and that $19.99 is the best I can give her. I even warned her that the managers tend to give higher prices. Still no dice. Okay, you want your silly manager? I'll get your silly manager. Manager comes, takes a 2-second glance at the shower curtain, and says, "Oh, I just sold that exact same one less than an hour ago. It's $29.99. The customer's face fell. It was glorious. She started stammering and complaining that I told her $19.99 and that this was false advertising. Manager leaves to help another cashier without listening to her, and I sweetly tell the customer, "Sorry, now that the manager has given the price, I can't change it. Will that be debit or credit?" She ended up buying it without saying a word. It was amazing. I'm so happy that the manager wasn't one of those managers that went, "Oh, sorry, you can have it for $12.99, no problem." And they were just like, "Oh, yep, that's $30, bye." My turn to pick up lunch? Okay. This happened last month, and the conclusion was this Monday. I work as a consultant, and as anyone can tell you, consultants charge you a ton of money to make up for the fact we have a buttload of non-billable time and overhead. I was doing a 2-hour safety startup for some minor excavation around some possible hazardous materials. Pretty much a routine I can do while half asleep. And so can everyone there because they've all heard it 100 times. But the law is the law, and we're doing it again. It's pretty much my only job for that day, so I'm planning some nice, sitting in the sun doing admin work to fill my afternoon. After the startup talk, I'm sitting with the site safety official, checking their paperwork, when a jerk foreman or AF walks in. "New girl, your turn to pick up lunch. Here's the list." Say what? "We get a big lunch every Wednesday, and since you're new, it's your turn to pick it up." "Yeah, sorry, but I'm the consultant for the I don't care. Just give me the bill and I'll reimburse you. If you want any, you gotta buy it yourself." Me thinking, 1, I'm 30 and not a girl. 2, screw you, douchebag. And 3, I don't think you realize what I cost per. Me out loud. "Sure, but can you sign off first?" Yeah. He signs the work order for time and expenses, so I go out, smiling as I drive to the local deli about 50 kilometers away. I wait patiently, grinning as they make about 40 subs to order. Meanwhile, I've got all the time in the world to work on some bills and other admin work, in the sun with a coffee. When the order's done, my smile's wide enough to fill up the car. I drive back. Lunch is here. See, that wasn't so bad, right? Nope, turns out I actually remembered how to drive. Teehee. So here's your sub, and here's your copy for the bill for the safety startup talk and the bill for the subs. And here's your copy for the bill for my unplanned overtime and my travel expenses. I already CC'd your office with all of that and your work order, so don't worry about any cash. That was last month. They actually paid the full bill without any issue on Monday. It was the best lunch I had in a long time. I was really curious as to how much it was, and they said in the comments, very ballpark, but enough to cover one sub a week for 40 people from August till Christmas. And then someone worked that out, which would be about $6,720. Hey everyone, I hope you all had a really good day and that you enjoyed that video. If you want to check out some other videos, then click on screen right now, or check out the playlist down below. If you enjoyed that video, then please do leave a like. And if you want to submit your own stories, then you can do so by joining the Discord in the top link in the description. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you very soon.